Hi everyone, it's Shannon from the Loophole Fox, and today I'm going to be showing you how to work the crossed double crochet. The crossed double crochet is a really fun stitch. It's easy to work up, relatively mindless once you get started because it only has a 2-row repeat. It only uses single crochet and double crochet stitches, and it does work up fairly quickly just because it is an easy to remember stitch. This stitch is really pretty. You can see here these crossed doubles have this beautiful diagonal stitching here, and I think they're just gorgeous. They do have quite a delicate look while still being a nice strong stitch. It has a little bit of pull to it, but otherwise it's very sturdy. This would be a very good stitch for washcloths or dish towels. It could also be a very good stitch for beanies, all kinds of things. You could really use it for almost anything. You could also just use a couple rows of this to put a little bit of a dainty detailing on something that's a bit stronger, or in the case of this baby blanket pattern, you could use it throughout. The baby blanket pattern is going to be linked below this video, so if you're interested in making the baby blanket as I have, you can follow that written pattern. Otherwise, today I'll be teaching you in a swatch, so I'm going to do a smaller size, and I will teach you how I also put this double crochet border on this pattern. So this stitch is good for beginners because it only uses the single crochet and the double crochet. So this stitch is good for beginners because it only uses the single crochet and the double crochet. So your first 2 stitches out the gate that you know as a beginner crocheter. So in this tutorial, you will learn how to work the crossed double crochet, but I'm not going to be in depth teaching the single crochet and the double crochet. I will, of course, work slowly and show you each stitch to work into. But if you don't already know how to single crochet and how to double crochet, I would highly recommend learning that before learning this stitch. So for this tutorial, I am going to use the same yarn that I used for my baby blanket pattern. This is Yarn Bee's Baby Bee Stork Struck in Baby's Blue. It is a medium 4 weight, so we'll need a 5mm hook. And the texture of this yarn is amazing. I originally chose this yarn color because this baby blanket is for my husband's boss, whose baby was born yesterday, I think. And they really wanted a nice light blue, and I wanted something that wasn't quite as like fuzzy as other yarns because it is still hot out, and I wanted this to be a nice cozy but strong baby blanket for them. What's interesting about this yarn is it's made from 50% tencel, T-E-N-C-E-L, which I'm probably pronouncing incredibly wrong, and 50% acrylic. So this has a feel similar to a Caron cotton cake. Okay. I would recommend, if you've never worked this stitch before, to start with a smaller swatch. That way, you can practice a little bit before you get into a bigger project. If you're feeling confident and you're out the gate and you want to make this baby blanket, absolutely go for it. But if you're new to this stitch, especially if you're a beginner crocheter, I would definitely start with a smaller swatch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use this yarn, and I've got my 5mm hook here. For the purposes of a swatch, you can use whatever you prefer. If you're going for a baby blanket, I would recommend a 4 medium weight yarn and a 5mm hook. That's what the pattern is written for and is going to match my gauge more closely. A link to the written baby blanket pattern, of course, will be in the description below. All right, so with this swatch, or with this stitch, you need an even stitch count. The first row is a row of single crochet, so you'll want an even number of chains plus 1 for your turning chain. For the purposes of this swatch, I'm going to chain 23 to reach 22 stitches. If you're doing the baby blanket, the pattern is written to 128 stitches, so you'd want to chain 129. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 23 so that I end up with 22 stitches. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, okay, there are my 23 chains, and now the first row is very simple. We're just going to work a single crochet in each stitch along this chain. So of course, if you're a beginner, you would start in the second chain from your hook, insert into the chain, yarn over, pull through. So you have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all right, there's my first row. Single crochets done. I'm just going to double check and make sure that I have 22 stitches. If you've done a different chain amount, make sure that your stitches are an even number. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, 22 stitches. So now we want to start the crossed double crochet. So with this, to turn, we're going to chain 3 and turn and chain 3. There's no right or wrong way. I do prefer to chain first and then turn. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to turn. Okay, so this chain 3 here, this chain 3 counts as a it counts as a double crochet. So that means the stitch that you chained out of, this first stitch here, is already worked. Okay, so I'm going to remove this for a second. I'm going to use my yarn needle to point here. So because this chain 3 counts, this first stitch here counts as being worked into because that's the stitch that you chained up out of. So when we're working our next double crochet, we're going to skip this next stitch and work into the third stitch. Okay, so we're going to skip this one and we're going to work into this next stitch. Okay, so I'm going to put this back on, and of course a double crochet, yarn over, insert hook into that third stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So now your work looks like this. To make the crossed double crochet, and this is going to seem a little weird if this is the first time you've done it, you're going to work your next double crochet in the stitch we skipped. So that is this stitch here. Okay, we're not chaining one before we do that. That'll mess up your stitch count. We're going directly into working a double crochet into this stitch. Okay, so we're going to yarn over, bypass this stitch, and we're just going to work directly into that stitch. Okay, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, just like a normal double crochet. You can see how it has that twisted look there. That's your first crossed double. All right, you might have noticed a little cut in the video there. My production manager, Kitty, decided he wanted to be a part of this. All right, so we've chained 3. We've done our first double crochet in the 3rd stitch, and we've worked our 2nd double crochet into the stitch prior. So now to work the next set of crossed double crochets, we're going to skip this stitch, directly next to that first double crochet we worked, and we're going to work into the next stitch. Once we've completed that double crochet, we're going to work the next double crochet into the previous stitch. Okay, so I'll put this back on. All right, so we're going to double crochet, I'm going to skip one and double crochet in the next. Oh. Okay, we're going to skip one and double crochet in the next. Okay, now we're going to work a double crochet in that stitch that we skipped. There's 2 crossed double crochets. Okay, so same thing, we're going to skip one, double crochet in the next, and we're going to double crochet in that previous stitch. So once again, when we yarn over, we're not going into this post or behind this post or anything. We're working directly in front of it. So we yarn over, insert our hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. Okay, once again, we're going to continue doing this all the way across the row until we reach the end. So skip one, double crochet in the next, and double crochet in the previous stitch. Okay, try and keep this as flat as possible. Sometimes I do find it easier to kind of hold it diagonally because you're able to get in there a little bit easier. So if you feel the need to hold it diagonally, go ahead and do so. Try and keep this as flat as possible for you. Okay, and we're going to continue doing this across the row until you reach the end. When you reach the end, you should have 1 stitch remaining. So I'm going to continue working, and you can work across the row with me. Okay, so skip one, double crochet in the next, double crochet in the skipped stitch. Okay, skip one, double crochet in the next, okay, double crochet in the previous. skip one, double crochet in the next, double crochet in the previous. Big old knot in the yarn. Alright, so I've done my first double crochet where I've skipped one, double crochet in the next, and I'm going into that previous stitch, double crochet. Alright, so I have 3 stitches left. I'm going to continue with the skip one, double crochet in the next, okay, then I'm going to still put my second double crochet in that previous stitch, okay, oops, I only picked up one loop on that one, okay, both loops. Alright, so we're at the end, we have 1 stitch left, we're just going to place a double crochet in there, 1 double crochet. Okay, there's your first row of crossed double crochets. You can see I just love the twisting of it. It's really pretty. Alright, so our third row is just a row of single crochets. So you want to chain 1, turn. So when I do single crochet rows, I never count that chain 1 as a stitch. I always work my first single crochet into that first stitch. So that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to work across, and you should still have 22 stitches or whatever even stitch count you started with. Okay, despite having these holes here that look a bit like mesh, you should not end up with less stitches than you started with. So make sure you still have that even stitch count. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, another yarn knot. Don't you hate it when you're working from center pull yarn and it just yarn vomits? All right, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, so I've worked mostly across my row, putting a single crochet in each stitch across. I have 21 stitches, and now I'm at the turning chain. The rule of crochet is to put your single crochet in the 3rd chain, and I'm gonna tell you, I just work into the hole of the turning chain. I really don't think it makes a difference. Do not tell my Nana I said that. Okay, so if you are a stickler for the rules, work into that 3rd chain of your turning chain. Otherwise, I'm just going to place my single crochet around. For the purposes of this pattern, it really doesn't make any difference in the actual look of it. Okay, so that's our 3rd row, just single crochets across. I'll do another cross double row with you, and then I'll finish working up this swatch and I'll show you how to do a border. Okay, so once again, to start our crossed double row, we're going to chain 3, and we're going to turn. Okay, so once again, because this chain 3 here counts as a stitch, this first stitch counts as already being worked too, so do not count this when you're counting how many stitches over to start. This counts as your one double crochet. So we're going to want to put our next double crochet, we're going to skip one and place our double crochet in the third. Okay, so once again, this counts as a stitch, so do not count the one that it's worked out of. Skip one and double crochet technically in that third stitch. Okay. Okay, so there's our first double crochet. We place our second in the stitch we skipped. Again, we're not going behind the post or anything fancy. We're literally just yarning over, inserting into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through two, pull through two. Okay. And it can look a bit wonky, like this first set here kind of looks like just a big knot, but as you can see from our previous row, it ends up looking very pretty. Okay, so skip one, double crochet in the next. Double crochet in the previous stitch. Okay, skip one, double crochet in the next. Double crochet in the previous stitch. Okay, skip one, double crochet in the next. Double crochet in the previous stitch. Okay, skip one, double crochet in the next. And double crochet in that previous stitch. Skip one, double crochet in the next. Double crochet in the stitch we skipped. As you're working these double crochets, when you're first getting started, working into that previous stitch, it can feel a bit wrong. It might pull a little weird, or you might feel that this first double crochet is getting pushed out of the way a bit strange. Just power through. I would just keep going. As we mentioned, like when we were first on this side, it can look a little bit wonky until you've got a few set up. So it might feel a bit weird working this stitch, but just go ahead and power through. Okay, so back to this. We're going to skip one, double crochet in the next. Okay, and double crochet in the stitch we skipped. Skip one, double crochet in the next. Double crochet in the stitch we skipped. Skip one, double crochet in the next. Double crochet in the stitch we skipped. Okay, we have 3 stitches left, so we're going to skip one, double crochet in the next, and double crochet in the stitch we skipped. double crochet in that last stitch. Okay, so we have 4 rows completed now. So you have your single crochet row 1, cross double row 2, your single crochet row 3, and your cross double row 4. Look how pretty it is. Okay, so your pattern repeat is going to continue with the single crochet row, cross double crochet row, single crochet row, cross double crochet row, and you'll just continue working that until you've reached a decent swatch size. You can maybe do 10 rows or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and just work a couple more rows, swatch, and then I'll show you how to work a border. Okay, so I'm just going to work a couple of more and then we'll come back to the border. Alright, so I'm back. I've done another row of the cross double crochets and another row of the single crochet. If you're following the pattern for the baby blanket, it will have you stop on the single crochet. I like to stop projects that I worked with the crossed double on a single crochet row just so that it matches the bottom. Okay, but however big your swatch is, I would recommend doing more rows than I have done. But I want to show you how to put a border on this work. So the first thing I do is I chain 1 and turn, and I work a single crochet row back along. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So you'll have 22 single crochets. Okay, so I reached the end of this row with the row of single crochets. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 2, but I'm not going to turn it back this way. I am going to turn it 90 degrees to work down alongside this edge here. Okay, so don't turn to work back along this way. Turn 90 degrees to work along the edge. So for a crochet border, you want to put a certain number of stitches in each type of stitch down. So for a single crochet, you're going to put 1 single crochet, and for a double crochet, you'll put 2 single crochets. So it's pretty easy to remember 1, 2, right? So down this edge, starting with this, not this stitch you've just worked to end, but into the same stitch you worked that one into, place 1 single crochet, okay, and then for this next double crochet, you're going to just work 2 single crochets. In the single crochet, work 1, and in the double crochet, work 2. Single crochet, work 1, and in the double crochet, work 2, and in the single crochet, work 1. Okay, it has a nice even border now. So at this corner, we're going to chain 2. This does 2 things. For the specific border that I've placed on my baby blanket, it leaves some room to form double crochet corners, but if you were to not put another border on, you can see it gives it a nice corner edge there. So I like to chain 2 there, regardless of whether or not I'm going to be working into it or not. Okay, so chain 2, turn again 90 degrees. So we're looking at our work upside down now, and we're going to place 1 single crochet across each stitch along the bottom. Okay, so there's 1, 2, all right, so we're almost there. We've done 3 of the sides now. So once again, we just need to work up the unworked side. So I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to turn 90 degrees to work up along the side. Same as before, I'm going to put a single crochet into the stitch I just worked. Okay. And 2 single crochet in this double crochet here. Okay, single crochet in the single crochet, double crochet in the double. Sorry, 2 single crochets, so double crochet in the double, 1 single crochet in the single, 2 single crochet in the double, and 1 single crochet in the single. So we've reached the end here. I'm going to chain 2 again, so you still want that corner, and then slip stitch to that first single crochet to close it. Okay, so you have a nice border here with just the single crochets. It does even up those ends for you. If you wanted to add the double crochet border the same as I did for my baby blanket, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that now. Okay, so you do have a nice border here of just the single crochets. It cleans it up a bit and it's fine on its own. I did put a double crochet border along mine, so if you'd like to do that, what you'd want to do is after you've slip stitched to close, for double crochets, when you don't want this hole next to it, I chain 2. You can chain 3 if you want. That's really personal preference, but essentially you're going to want to have a double crochet in each stitch along this row until you reach that chain 2 point there. Okay, so when I do double crochets in a row like this, I don't count that chain as a double crochet. Again, that's up to you. So basically just work a double crochet in each stitch across. So you should still have 22 or whatever even number you started with. If it's the baby blanket, you would have 128. Right, so there's my 22 regular double crochet across the row, 1 in each stitch, not crossing them or anything, just a standard double crochet row. I've reached this chain 2 point here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to work 3 double crochet into that chain 2 space. Okay, and you'll see how it's starting to turn there. So for this side, I'm just going to work one single crochet, one double crochet in each single crochet along. Don't forget this first single crochet here, that first stitch. It can get hidden a bit in these 3 doubles. Okay, so there's one double crochet in each stitch along the side. I've reached that chain 2 space, and I'm going to work 3 double crochets into that space. Okay, same as before, one double crochet in each stitch across. Okay, so I've reached that other edge with my chain 2 space. I'm going to work 3 double crochets into that chain 2 space. So there's 1, 2, and 3. All right, same thing. Going to put 1 double crochet in each single crochet across. All right, I've reached the last chain 2 space, so I'm going to place 3 double crochet into that chain 2 space. There's 1, 2, and 3, and we've made it all the way around. Now we just want to slip stitch to that first double crochet to close. And there you have it. There's your double crochet border. You can see how the 3 double crochets give it a softer edge. The end hanging out here. So you can really choose whatever kind of border you like. I chose the double crochet border for the baby blanket because it's more classic looking. It gives it a nice solid border around the delicate crossed double crochets, and I thought it had an overall really nice finish. You can of course do whatever kind of border that you like. I would always suggest starting your borders with a round of single crochets. It makes everything so much easier to work into, especially if you're doing a nice scallop border or something like that. It's just going to make your life a whole lot easier. Okay, so once again, I'll show you the baby blanket. It looks so pretty worked up. It doesn't matter how you hold it or which way you look at it. It's just such a pretty stitch, really nice and delicate, and I am so excited to gift this to the baby it was made for. I really hope that you enjoy this pattern if you follow the baby blanket pattern, and if not, I really hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial and that you can now go forth and create all kinds of projects using the crossed double crochet. If you have any questions, you're welcome to leave a comment, or you can also reach out to me via the contact form on my blog. I'll be happy to answer any questions or help you if you need anything further, okay? Otherwise, happy crocheting!